15, 13, 12, 11, 10. We have go for main engine start. 8, 7, 6. We have main engine start. 3, 2, 1. Liftoff.
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
They say recovery is a process. We say it's more like trying to assemble IKEA furniture with half the instructions.
And sometimes you end up with a very strange-looking bookshelf. But hey, it still holds books.
Welcome to the Now Street Recovery Podcast, where we unravel the tangled threads of self-improvement.
And maybe, just maybe, learn to laugh at the knots along the way. I am your co-host, Bentley.
And I'm Martin. And join us, won't you? All right, guys, here we go. We're starting our first podcast, and hopefully it's going to be fun, entertaining, maybe learn a little bit about recovery. So let's get into this. So what's up, Bentley? Good morning.
Morning, Martin.
This is my co-host, Bentley. I'm Martin. You know, so Bentley, sometimes I get lost in thoughts and reflections, like I'm always thinking, just random things that come into my head. I'm sure you've been there plenty of times.
My mind's always racing, nonstop.
The other day I was doing some reflection, and it just popped into my head, the term adulting fails.
Yeah, my entire existence in recovery right now, other than staying clean, has been adulting fails. I was very reliant on my ex-wife for most adulting things.
Yeah, so exactly. So, you know, I'll kind of give you and the audience a little bit of background on it, and then I'll get your words of wisdom and your stories, because I'm sure that everyone will be able to relate to this. So, you know, normal people, quote unquote, I'm shooting air quotes, when they have adulting fails, it's like, you know, they put bleach in the colored clothes and the clothes come out bleached, right? Adulting fails, they learn from that. Or you come home from work one day and your electricity is off because you forgot to pay the electric bill. Adulting fail, you learn from that. You know, so everybody kind of gets the gist of what quote unquote normal people do, right? Well, that's not us as addicts. Like, our adulting fails can be catastrophic. For example, when I was reflecting, a little bit of backstory, there was a period in my life for about 11 years. I was married to a woman, great woman, had 3 kids by her, lived in Tennessee, and this was a period in my life when I did my heaviest drinking. Like, I was full-blown alcoholic. Anyways, that's a story for another show. But I did a lot of adulting fails in that, you know. It was my responsibility on the weekends. She had my ex-wife, she had a part-time job that she worked on the weekend, so I was in charge of the 3 young kids. And when I'm saying young, you know, their ages at that time was probably, you know, around 7 to 9, that age group. And had a lot of adulting fails. And the only way that I knew that these were adulting fails is when her, being normal, would come home to these failures, and she would look at me and say, "Aren't you an adult?" Then that's when it would dawn on me, you know, maybe that wasn't such a good idea. I'll give you a couple of examples. You know, like I said, she had a job on the weekend, so one time she came home from work. I was drunk, of course, and one of my 7-year-old twins, him and I were driving up and down the block in our little cul-de-sac. He was the one driving. I was sitting in the passenger seat. My interpretation as an alcoholic was, hey, this would be a cool idea. Let's teach a kid how to drive. I didn't realize, 7 years old, maybe not the best idea. adulting fail.
Clearly, I'm still not an adult. I see nothing wrong with this.
See where I'm going with this? Because I didn't either. That's why I said until like I got that look in her face, that expression, and then the statement that said, "Martin, you're supposed to be an adult. Like, what are you doing here, right?" I didn't see the disaster that could ensue. At this time, like we lived in little suburban, country, small town Tennessee, cul-de-sac. So, like you, I seen nothing wrong with a 7-year-old driving and me teaching him how to drive. Another good example is she come home one time and we had a swimming pool in the backyard, and a couple of my buddies were over. We were pretty drunk. Um, when my wife walked into the backyard, all she heard was a bunch of laughter from us adult men yelling, "Jump!" Right? One of my 6, 7-year-olds was on the roof of the house with a trampoline in front of him on the ground into the pool. 7-year-old off the house, trampoline, pool. What could go wrong? Right? Again, as I reflect, adulting fails. So this is kind of where I was going with this topic. Like, you know, give me some. I know you have some examples of this, Bentley. You got to.
Well, I'm going to let you guys know right off the bat. We were doing this in the morning. That was probably a mistake on my end. That was an adulting fail, thinking that I can even get up and fully function. But yeah, my relationship was constantly kind of getting that disappointed look, especially after having a kid. I think once you have a kid, you're just expected to kind of step up and know things. And I kind of reverted back into, that was actually my worst time with the alcoholic aspect of my addiction. I've never been good at bills. I've never been good at, saving money.
So this is kind of where I was going with this topic. Like, give me some. I know you have some examples. Got it.
Well,
Yeah. All right, Bentley, we got dead air, buddy.
I thought you
Go
were
with your
listening to that
story.
part.
Nope, go with your story.
I don't know, one adulting fail is just not, knowing when to kind of swallow your pride, I guess. I was drinking heavily at this time, and I got back into stimulants to kind of curb my drinking, because that was my idea of adulting, was instead of just quitting drinking, since I was on the verge of losing my job and we had a newborn, I figured I would just start self-medicating my ADHD and primarily my alcoholism with meth again. And so that and a stolen bike, and knowing where said stolen bike was, I couldn't let it go. I wasn't riding the bike anymore. They weren't asking a lot for the bike. My wife made some kind of joke, used the word bitch, and so I.
Oh wow, yeah, that's like a don't do.
Yeah, so I called an old friend up to prove that, and that was catastrophic. That was pretty much the end of the relationship. It didn't end for another year or two, but that got me back into heroin, because I ended up going over there, kicking in a door, getting my hand broken, making an ass of myself, putting my family at risk. It wasn't in the best neighborhood that we went to. They obviously found out where the person got the bike from, and I ended up losing that job that I had had for 7 years. That was our bread and butter. Didn't realize the importance of that, and then I just couldn't pull it together, man. I couldn't man up. I've heard that term a lot growing up. Adapt, get another job, go work in the oil fields, and I have, the co-occurring mental health stuff going on, and that just was exasperated. It was a dark time, but I couldn't do shit, dude. I couldn't even stay at home and watch my kid, and then just fell deeper and deeper back into addiction.
Yeah, so see, so you can relate, like, and I'm sure our audience is going to be able to relate the same way, Like I said, adulting fails. In reflection, some of mine look humorous. The two examples that I gave you with the pool and the driving, um, in reflection, I can laugh at that and say, wow. But, just like the story that you were just telling, they could have been catastrophic events. Like, what if the kid would have drove off the road, right? Or what if one of the kids would have missed the trampoline off the roof? Adulting fell. It could have went very bad.
It actually makes me think of, I didn't mean to get into a dark addiction story. That my brain just went there for some
No,
reason.
yeah,
but
you're good.
I pulled a Michael Jackson with Ezra, because I was curbing my drinking with Xanax again at one point, and we're at the beach, and everyone freaks out, and I'm like, what the fuck, man? I'm trying to show her the fucking beach, but I'm like holding her over the railing, doing. I don't know if anyone's familiar with Michael Jackson holding his child blanket over the balcony.
Oh, absolutely. Well, hey, adulting fell, right? You name your kid Blanket?
Yeah.
Weird.
Weird.
But yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I can get into a whole tangent about that. We're not going to do that now. Yeah, so, and everyone's freaking out and stuff. And I pretty much spent most of the time back then waking up in the morning trying to just assess by her body language, or if she was even in the same bed as me, how bad I fucked up the night before, and then piece together maybe what show we watched, or if I pissed the bed or not, and those right there are things that I would try to focus on, like, okay, maybe if I just get this drink, actually I never tried to get those ones under control. I tried to get the small adulting things, like, okay, maybe if I get the house real clean, and, but then something would always go wrong, like, did you pay this, or why'd you buy that, Max came home one day and me and my daughter are wearing Adidas tracksuits. I don't have a job.
Hey, that's a good idea. Like, you never know, right? It was a good idea at the time.
Absolutely.
You just touched on something too that's kind of funny, and I had this problem, when I would get drunk. I'm not sure. There was a brief period in time, like a month, and I guess you could relate to this as a adulting fail. Piss in the bed.
Yeah.
Every time I got drunk, go to bed, wake up the next morning, piss. Like, what's up with that?
Well, I'm a heavy sleeper when I drink, so I think that's to do with it. And I also like to drink till I black out, because at first it gives me a lot of energy, and I think maybe I crash or something. But I just use that as a way to, relate to my small child. If she wets the bed, hey, look at it, I've wet the bed more times than I can fucking count. I'm an adult, so if I say adulting win, experience, strength, and hope. We learn. Move on. I haven't pissed the bed in over 2 years, so. Nice.
Yeah, well, that's a story for another time. I can't necessarily say that. But yeah, so you were adulting with your child. That's kind of how I seen it. Like, I was growing with them, in my addiction, my alcohol, my drinking and stuff.
Well,
that's how I think I made it okay. Like, I was growing with them,
being there. That's what it's.
I was having fun with them, and like you said, for example, Ezra wets the bed. Now you can relate. Hey, don't worry about it, Ezra. Not a big deal. I do it, and look at how old I am. Right? Adulting fails.
I think that's how I justified a lot of my addiction at the time, because I was a mess, because I was, if anything, my ex would be mad enough, or I'd make some, shit the bed. I only did that once, literally, but, figuratively shit the bed. Bad enough to where all of a sudden I got to kind of dry up for a second, but I had no interest in going back and working like a 12-step program or anything, because it wasn't bad enough yet. I still had I still provided, quote unquote, which meant I was still under the same roof as my ex. And so I'd say it makes me funner, it makes me happier. Now I can experience life with you guys, because otherwise I was just a shell of the man I once was, and I'd be in bed, just trapped in my own mind. And so, like you said, it was just kind of like I'm growing with you, but really they were growing and I was standing still. I was just kind of existing, just being there was enough. Don't you know who I am?
Yeah, so I can relate to that too, and I'm sure our audience can relate. Like I said, that 11-year marriage, as far as addiction goes, especially with alcohol, that was probably my worst time ever. But unfortunately, the alcoholism got so severe that when I wasn't drunk, I wasn't a part of the family. I was laying in bed, or I was being grumpy, or whatever the case may be. So
Trying to cause a fight to go get drunk.
Yeah, exactly. That's what the drinking is what kept me, quote unquote, functioning, to keep up with what the family was doing. You know, um, I now that I look back, I see how immature it was, and man, the hell that my ex-wife must have went through. Like,
Hindsight, man.
yeah, you know, when she finally left me, not to go to a deep, dark place, we're supposed to make this kind of humorous, but when she finally left, for about the first year that her and I were separated, uh, I couldn't understand, well, why did she leave me? She had all the material stuff she wanted. I thought I was doing a good job at helping her raise the kids and whatnot. But, that must have been a period of dark hell for her. Because along with the drinking, not only did they get the fun-loving dad guy, but they also got the domestic violence, the fights and arguments all the time. But yeah, so that's, adulting fails. So where are you at in life currently? Are you still doing adulting fails? Are you still learning?
Yeah, life's I just look at every day like a lesson, and I try not to lean too much on the I used to always hear in early recovery, this laundry list of things, at a meeting someone's complaining about, and then they'd say, well, did you use today? No? Well, then that's a win. And I do believe that, because if I'm not using, I'm not going backwards. But at the same time, it's like, I've just kind of been in this safety place, the safe net, I work and live out of sober living still. I have the longest I've ever been clean. I have a little over 2 years. My clean date's March 13th of 2023. And
congratulations.
Thank you. But man, I have a laundry list of bills. When we went through the divorce, my ex kind of did her thing. She wasn't in the wrong. I'm not saying she burned me or anything, but I burnt myself. I was I'm not dealing with any of this shit, dude. I was had a little EDD fraud money, and was trying to do the motel scene for a while, but yeah, I got probably 20 grand in child support payments, because I didn't know I had a case against me while I was homeless and doing that whole Dougie right there. And then credit cards, I just freaking used every last one that we had, so that's another 20-something thousand in debt.
Oh, absolutely.
And I don't make a lot working at a sober living. I also do the Obama phones to supplement my income. So right now, in the past 2 years, this is the most I've made in a long time. I was a waiter before. I didn't have debt. And so I kind of got used and comfortable with not having money, and then just I've used that as being able to see God provide for me, and just trust in the process every step of the way, and focus on myself. I am doing well in those aspects of life, like self-care and all that, but now it's like time to like look at reality, like, you know, like I tried
Yeah,
school,
kind of
failed.
start cleaning up that wreckage type stuff
Yeah,
of
you
the
know,
adulting fails of the past,
yeah, 'cause
right?
I just
Yeah.
kind of wanted to ignore them, but I see other people doing it, but I just, I'm like, you know, fuck you, I just made this money, I want it, you know, I'm gonna keep it, and go buy some new Nikes, or, you know, like I have no button with my daughter, which is not good either. I don't, you know, try. I think it's just like an overcompensation for not being able to be there for the real adulting, which I would like to get into that later.
Yeah, and see, that's, I can definitely relate to everything you just said. Like you, I work in recovery as well. Don't have the same clean time. I'm only coming up on 6 months clean, and God willing, four
Wouldn't
more
say
days.
only, dude. That's
Yeah, not only because that's a big deal
my
for
first
sure for
milestone, you
me.
know, never been there before until now.
But yeah, like you were saying, we don't make much money with what we're currently doing, working in recovery. So for me, now that I'm learning how to be an adult, like there's stuff that I want. When it comes to payday, like I got all that wreckage just like you. I got the credit card debt and bills from God knows when that need to be paid. But when I get handed my paychecks right now, there's stuff that I want too. Like I want a new pair of shoes, or I want to take my girlfriend out to eat. You know, um, and unfortunately for us, like a new pair of shoes and a dinner date, that's payday for the week.
Yeah, you know, but it felt good to be able to like start getting my kids stuff again, because you know, like I didn't fight the amount on the child support, and I'm grateful to be able to pay as much as I get to pay. And the kids are expensive. Like when I first heard that amount, I'm like, oh, that's bullshit for one kid, you know. And but man, like when I'm with her, you know, I spend that much in just a weekend, and so whatever else extra she needs, you know, my ex doesn't like to, you know, ask for too much. She's very independent, and so you know, but like clothes or just things like that. Uh, you know, I feel like when it comes to I overcompensate because I feel like I put what other people think about me. You know, my ex-wife, you know, I feel like she feels this type of way, or her new man looks at me like I'm like a loser because I'm, you know, 2 years clean, still finishing up an 18-month DUI program from a DUI in 2019. And I don't have a car, you know, and so like you know, you kind of, it's hard not to feel like a loser, you know, like.
So right now, yeah,
date,
the car,
you know, right now.
the car thing. So I know the girl that I see off and on. It's been, anyways. I'm not going to get into that, but yeah, the girl that I see right now, the not having a car thing at 49 years old is a big deal. Yeah. And she's mentioned it.
Pretend it's not at first.
She's mentioned it to me a few times. Like, we would see each other a lot more if I didn't have to do all the driving.
Yeah, and that would step my game up, like with my kid, because like that's my main thing in life. Like the joy of having my daughter in my life is there's nothing like it. Like I never thought I could love somebody as much as I love my daughter, and you know, I'm gonna have her this rest of this week. It's my birthday coming up, and I'll probably spend a ridiculous amount of money on her just buying, you know, clothes at Ross or something for the both of us. But when it comes to like, you know, I feel like sometimes you feel like the co-parent who gets to be the main one is like, you know, looks at you like the fun dad, and you know, and I hate that image because I'm like, man, I would love to be, you know, there for the milestones of like, you know, teaching your kid how to spell and read, you know, and I get, you know, I try to like do those things when I'm with her, but it's like I don't get to see those things, you know, like, and I was strung out for potty training and all the rest of it. You know, and I know that I will get there, but sometimes I feel like, man, like, am I doing everything I need to be doing in order to get there? And so kind of it's dawned on me that, like, you know, I got to start getting my ducks in a row, you know, like fixing my credit, paying those bills, You know, I have a little money saved for a car, but then I got SR22 insurance, and it's like, fuck adulting. It's rough, you know? Like, it'd be nice to be able to hire some kind of service.
Right?
You know, a 12-step program goes pretty far, and I have a sponsor who's willing to, he's a youth pastor as well, and so he does, when he works with, like, inner city kids and stuff, so he does, you know, life plans and stuff like that. I've yet to take him up on it, because I feel like I'm too scatterbrained, you know. People say what they want about ADHD, but man, it's rough, you know. One day maybe we'll do a topic on that, but it definitely, it's hard to freaking, you know, your executive function's fucked up. So I feel like, you know, I'm not using that as an excuse, but it definitely is not making these things any easier. What it does make easy is out of mind, out of sight. So I can very easily ignore adulting.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, yeah, as we progress and continue to do these podcasts, I know for sure at some point we're going to have a whole episode on mental health issues and co-occurring disorders that a lot of addicts, I would say at least 90, and I think I'm being
like. I think
90% of addicts.
Maybe not all of them recognize it. Some people don't. To me, it just blows my mind because I've met, you know, they're a diamond, or is that not that? There's very few that I've met. I don't know exactly what that fucking little phrase I was looking for was, but when I've met, like, you know, a buddy of mine, he's strictly an addict, and he's an addict to the fucking core. Because I feel like if you don't have the, like, for me, if I didn't have the mental health, I'm like, I'm like, I wouldn't need to be the addict, you know. But he's just, you know, he fucking relapses just as much as he's a fucking addict. You know who he is, Martin. I'm not gonna say his name. But he doesn't have like, he doesn't. It's just like it's off. You know, like like when he's kicking or when he's going through. You know, when he's getting off meth. You know, of course your mind's snapping back. You know, and a lot of people get. I feel like that was a problem in early recovery. You know, I've been diagnosed with everything under the sun because doctors will diagnose you based off your getting off of certain drugs. You know, psychosis. You know.
Oh,
technically,
bad.
I'm like, you know, I'm bipolar with schizoaffective and all this other stuff. You know. And I think I do have a little bipolar, but, you know, kind of navigating that and knowing, you know, should I take these meds, should I not? It's, you know, it's a lot. But those ones who don't deal with that, it just kind of blows my mind. Because I'm like, how do you, like,
and again,
how do you end up like that?
Yeah, and again, addressing those issues. Another example, adulting, right?
Oh, shit, making appointments.
Yeah, all of that. You know, like I said, I know for sure we're going to have a podcast, maybe even have a guest. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, I have a nurse friend. She'd like
yeah, there you go, to discuss mental health issues, because like I said, I think I'm being generous when I say that probably 90% of addicts, whether they know it or not, have some kind of co-occurring disorder. I know I have a diagnosis as well. I'm diagnosed bipolar depression, and this is kind of a weird one, but it's called amphetamine-driven psychosis.
Oh no, that's not weird at all anymore.
Which means I still have a little bit of the psychosis when I'm not using. I just know how to control it. But amphetamine-induced, oh boy, off the charts.
I still fucking have some, dude. I learned how to control it pretty early, like just using like God as my compass. Like he's not gonna tell me all this fucked up shit, you know. Because a lot of times it would just be like fucking people talking shit, saying stuff or knowing stuff they shouldn't know. But it took well over a year for it to like fully go away. I didn't want to take like schizophrenic meds and shit like they wanted, so I kind of, you know, I've been in the mental health system long enough to know to keep some shit to yourself, you know, unless
unless you want to be locked up, and I don't know about you, but I've been there too, where I couldn't leave.
Fucking times, yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's.
At one point, I was going to go undercover there. I was still currently in a psychosis, and I was going to go undercover back to the mental hospital. I don't know if that was just my subconscious, like trying to get me back in or what, but that was an interesting time.
You know, to get back to this adulting thing, man. One thing that you were talking about being in the rears on child support. And that just made me think.
I'll never catch up, dude. I pay a good penny, but fuck.
So here's my deal with child support, and gosh, what a fucking loser I look like. So I've got 2 baby mamas.
Woo.
Yeah, and one thing that they both have in common is that when they finally both left, right? I had fucking done so much damage and fucked them up so bad. Both of them said the same thing, like, dude, just go away. Like, please, we're not gonna come after you for child support. We don't want nothing from you but to fucking leave. Like my ex-wife, which
mine was cut off all contact, which I'm grateful for at the time, but also here's a fucking fat. Somebody coached her on it, I'm not gonna say who, but here's a fat bill for you. Like, I don't want to talk shit about my ex on a podcast.
yeah,
But,
right. No.
for sure, I was, it took a lot to not resent her for the back pay and for the debt. Like, there's reasons why, not because I want to be a cheap ass, But fuck, whenever I meet somebody who doesn't have a case, because now I am responsible enough, and I feel like I've proven myself. But then again, 2 years isn't a long time. I've been a dipshit for a lot longer. But I'm like, just take the case just away, because I hate dealing with them. They take a percentage, and then also
Yeah, absolutely. We'll make arrangements on our own.
Yeah,
right?
because I was like, I'd pay you more, and then you wouldn't have to worry about waiting. If I get my check late, which happens when you work in recovery sometimes. You get paid with rent. Some people are shy on rent. So, there's stuff like that, and all of a sudden she's like, hey, I didn't get, because it comes right out of my check. She's like, I didn't get paid. And I'm like, well, maybe if we just didn't have that case. And then also I found out that there's certain ways that it's filed. So, like, in this situation I'm in, she would have to be the one to, like, drop the back pay. Which I'm like, I got a laundry list of reasons. But actually, when that conversation came up, that was an adulting win for me, which was when to shut the fuck up, which for me is impossible.
Oh man, that's huge with adulting. I don't know how many times yeah.
You could send that off into the ether without fucking a second thought.
I don't know how many times going through my life where I've threw something out there into the air, verbally, texting, whatever the case may be, and then 5 seconds later go, oh shit, I probably shouldn't have said that.
Yeah, almost immediate. It's just, and that's what sucks about technology, man. Because that's why I like Facebook Messenger. You can kind of go back and be like, never mind. I don't like that it fucking snitches on you and tells you unsent a message. It makes you look like a bitch. But with the texting, man, I've learned this has been the greatest win for me is to pray first. Actually, the last relationship I was in, if I would have maybe prayed before I decided to let her know how I felt after I failed to purchase a pizza, that's a whole nother story. Maybe we'd still be together. Probably not. I think it said a lot, and I think that breakup was...
Now connected to Bentley Spire TV.
God damn it, I hate Alexa. Sorry.
Wow, I think Alexa's going to join the podcast.
Yeah, dude, that's like, if I ever get a domestic, it's going to be on my Alexa.
No, I hear you. I'm the same way with Jim and I.
They've heard me fight. Like, they'll be like, were you fighting with your old lady, dude? And I'm like, first of all, I don't have an old lady. Second of all, that was Alexa. I'm like, freaking, I swear she does some shit on purpose.
So here's an adulting story. I think you'd call it adulting that I have with technology. After my ex-wife and I, when we were going through the separation / divorce process, I could tell you a whole thing on that. But anyways, before coming back here to Bakersfield, like I said, my ex-wife and I were living in Tennessee, so I kind of stair-stepped to get back here over a couple of years. And one of my stopovers was in Oklahoma.
How was Oklahoma?
Yeah, for me it was a disaster. It was a horror story. But anyways, I was in Oklahoma, and that's kind of when I got back into using meth for a brief period of time. Got really strung out. But anyways, adulting with
smoking or poking in Okie?
Oh, both. anything and everything. But yeah, so adulting with technology, I was seeing a lady while I was there, and she was out of town one weekend, and anyways, for whatever reason, we were communicating over Messenger, Facebook Messenger, and she kept telling me to send her a picture of my junk, right?
Seeing his junk, it's nice, guys.
So, yeah, thanks. So did everybody else in this story.
Yeah,
So,
at some point.
I wasn't, at the time, I was not techno-savvy at all, especially not with Facebook or anything else. So I kept telling her no, but finally she kept pressing the issue. So I was like, hey, why not? So I send this pic over what I think is instant messenger, right? Well, I send the pic, I go to sleep. Next morning, my mom breaks through the door of my bedroom and goes, what the fuck have you done? And I'm like, whoa, what? I've been asleep all night. What the fuck have I done? She goes, oh my God, you just put your dick's on Facebook. And I'm like, what? How is that even possible? So mind you, I've got, they were young at the time, my kids, my young adolescent kids on my Facebook. I've got cousins and their kids on Facebook. Somehow I posted this pitch, and instead of sending it instant messenger, I sent it to my news feed.
That's
And
awesome, dude.
regardless what kind of hog you have, or you know, you don't want that to go to your family and friends, and
My family and friends have all seen me naked a number of times.
And my mom, I guess, you know, thinking of the person that she thought of me at the time, was like, she really thought I had done this on purpose. And I'm like, what would possess you to think that I did this on purpose?
She's like, I don't know, maybe all the fucking wild shit you're doing all the time while you're shooting meth.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
It's not the craziest thing you've done, probably.
But yeah, so that's adulting with technology. I learned real quick how to operate Facebook. Well, I learned a couple things. For one, don't throw out there any pics into the atmosphere that you don't want everybody to see. Like, if you throw a pic, it doesn't matter whether you're sending it. If you're sending it through the airwaves, right? If it's not a face-to-face, any pic you take that you put into a public domain, make sure you want everybody in the world to see it.
So
because you never know what could happen. Yeah, definitely get fluff first.
You gotta fluff first.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But on the adulting win, because I got distracted by Alexa, it was simply just pausing before I say something. And I did this when it came to the child support thing. And then not only that, I actually saw where I ended up like I was on her side, and it was kind of like, because I was in the middle of a fourth step at the time, so I was doing some inventory anyways, and so it kind of hurt too, because you know, she said some things that I wanted to lash back at, like, you know, that hurt my pride and feelings because it's not the man that I am today, but you know, she's still hurt, and she's not necessarily, she's not in a process of healing. She has, you know, she's got a full family. She's got stepkids. She's got, you know, my daughter has 2 half-sisters, 2 stepsisters, you know, and her own relationship and a job and everything. So, you know, it's, you know, I don't know. It was, like I said, it was an adulting move right there. Because normally I would have sent that text and I would have felt those truths, but, you know, feelings aren't always true forever. There's stuff that I would have sworn on. Like you said, like when you're talking about your kids and you're drinking back with your family, that I thought I would have taken to the grave, still feeling the same way, you know. And had I not worked a program, I probably would have, because it was honestly a direct result of that. Also, adulting, who you go advice to, I feel like is important. Just because somebody has clean time, I've realized, and just because somebody's somebody I go advice to and would trust fully on one subject. Doesn't mean it's going to go across the board, you know, because there's people that I talk to about this situation who probably had their own relationship issues, you know, 15 years clean, and they're just like, fuck that bitch and fuck the child support lady. And normally I want to grab onto them like, see, you're with me. but my sponsor just put interest,
Yeah, so kind of like an example. So like, if you were to see a rich guy, you might go to him for financial,
Yeah.
benefits. But if you see him smacking the hell out of his wife, you're not going to go to him for relationship advice. That type of thing.
Exactly, man.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's why I think you've got to have a whole group of people. Like, I'm going to go to this person for this situation.
Takes a
For
village.
example, you and I both are in the 12-step program. And so like with having my sponsor, right? Like, my feelings on it is like, yeah, I'm going to use my sponsor for stuff that relates to my addiction and things like that.
Yeah, I just got blessed because my guy, he's like a whole package deal, which I haven't got to talk to him as much as I'd like to recently. But I need to do that.
Well, some people though, once they get a sponsor, they'll think it's okay to call the sponsor up at 8:00 at night and say, "Hey, can you go get me a pizza? You're my sponsor. You're supposed to help me out." You know what I mean?
That's how it feels with my sponsees. I don't feel like I've had one that's. But then again, I don't know. The sponsor-sponsee relationship. I recently started sponsoring people, and I'm right now. I just passed my 4th step. I've been through them before, but just on this round, the way I've been taught is you're going to go through it again and again and again, and I think it's healthy. But my sponsor's whole thing to work with me this time around, because he's worked with me before, and it took me over a year because I had OD'd in his driveway and broke all of his plants and pissed myself. That's when he kind of like cut me off because I used to go around.
Like literally pissed yourself?
Yeah, I woke up and the cops are all around me and they didn't even want to take me in. It was crazy. I had a felony warrant. Swear to God. That's how fucked up I was.
Hey, I had that incident at a bar one time. I got into a bar fight. Again, this was in Tennessee, and I was pretty drunk. But at some point in the bar prior to the fight, I got so lazy sitting at the bar counter that I just started peeing myself. I think I shit myself a little bit.
Apparently, this is like a thing at casinos. I just saw a video of a hot chick pissing herself because she didn't want to.
Yeah, because you don't want to get off a hot machine, right?
Yeah,
no, exactly. That's how it was, at the bar.
I understand it with the bar.
I didn't want to, it was crowded. I didn't want to lose my spot.
Yeah.
Whatever the case may be, I might have to take whatever. So I get into this fight, which I don't even think I won, but that is neither here nor there. Get into this fight, definitely with piss pants. I think a little bit of shit as well. So when the cops showed up, they're like, "Dude, this is fucking disgusting." Like,
I think that's actually like
we so want to take you to jail, but we don't want you in the back seat of our car. They let me go. Like,
yeah, I think
they were like, "How far away do you got to go?" I said, "Right here, right across the street." And they're like, "Dude, go." Yeah. Like, get the fuck out of here, shitty pants.
Yeah, I think that might be one to keep in your back pocket or back of your pants one day.
Yeah, when the cops are going to show up, just lose all controls over your bladder and your butt.
Yeah. Yeah, because I used to, my sponsor kind of let me hang out on the side of his house or just come by. I couldn't necessarily come indoors. He, not only does he know I'll be shooting heroin or fentanyl in his bathroom, it's just I'm a handful. I used to not understand why people I'm just hurting myself, because I got over stealing from close friends. I wouldn't burn you unless I felt you had it coming in some way or another. And usually people who were sticking their hand out for me weren't those people. And it took me a long time to realize it was the behavior. I might be just on an even coast. My even coast is goofballs, and so. You might not know. Once I'm in maintenance mode.
What's a goofball? Like
heroin and speed.
Okay,
at
yeah,
the end,
gotcha.
I was fentanyl just like everybody else in the fucking world now. And so that right there, there's times in my addiction where, especially when I first get clean, I'm fucking out there. Where people wouldn't even be able to tell. Especially if I'm I get to that point where I'm eating, sleeping, or whatever. But I also forget that I have that I fucking love Xanax, and I've had a couple runs getting off of that, so that's a rodeo. But but 1 weekend of Xanax, dude, and I can ruin a whole year of hiding my addiction to people. And so I was, I had a plug on some real bars at the time, and we were getting a ridiculous amount over this 2-week period. I still think Marshall stole my iPad back then.
So these are goofballs are the same thing as speedballs, right? Are they?
Essentially, speedballs, like it's, Belushi's the rich man version. That's with Coke.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
I did more speedballs in the last year of my addiction than I had in a long time, just because I had started, like, I met this dude at the methadone clinic who sold Coke, but he was trying to get into the fentanyl trade. And so he'd hang out with me every once in a while, and he was a fucking baller, dude, young fucking kid, face tats and stuff, but like, dude had like a fucking Beamer SUV, dude. He took me to Costco and was like buying his wife, like he was like adulting, dude. It tripped me out, like this fucking Connect, and he's like, has a house, I didn't know where it was, but it was in the general area by VHS, because he would drop me off on a corner. But yeah, he bought me like a fucking one of those chicken bakes from Costco, and he's like buying like, he's like, oh, my wife wants the Charlie Brown Christmas blow-ups and stuff. And I'm like... And then meanwhile, he's like, yeah, try this fucking Coke. And I'm like, all right. And I freaking loaded up my works. And he's just like, oh, you're going to shoot it?
Like, and you're insane, right? Yeah, yeah.
I'm like, I was like, oh, fuck yeah, dude. I was like, I don't get a chance to do this very often. And shooting Coke alone is not fun. That is a fucking heart attack. I'll shoot speed alone if that's what I got, the hand I got. But as far as like shooting Coke alone without any heroin to kind of balance that out, if you ain't got your gang, dog, you're gonna freaking your bells are ringing, you're gonna be fucking having a heart attack.
So I've shot Coke. Yes, I've shot Coke twice in my life, and both times, like you said, I literally thought I was gonna die. Like, oh Lord, please just let me get through this. The high is great, but when the ears start ringing, and so back to the.
So I was in my sponsor's driveway. I had lost like this freaking iPad that I had scored. I love that iPad. When you don't have any friends or a life, and you're just living with your Connect because you worked. I was working the programs at the time, and I found a place that didn't give a shit if we got high, and so I moved my Connect in.
Which is always a requirement when you want to find a place to live.
Yeah,
Number
absolutely.
one, am I allowed to get high here?
Yeah, you got to kind of feel it out. I got kicked out of a bunch of programs because it would get cold, and I found out you could use Medi-Cal, and or it'd be too hot, or I'd burn my spot by getting fucking Xannied out and getting into some fight, and that being homeless and having someone shoot at you when you're in a psychosis, like it's a fucking lot to deal with. So I'd be like, okay, time to go be an indoor dog now, and then I'd find somewhere, I'd load up on methadone. And so this time I was living at this place for like a freaking year, dude. And just like I said, me and my Connect were just doing our Dougie. And so I went and I was depressed and sad, and they locked me out because you had to be back by 10. That was the only thing. But they didn't give a shit if you didn't come back by 10. You just couldn't, it depended how fucked up you were, if you could make it over the fence or not. But I'd already harpooned myself once on their spikes. Oh, so wow. I went over to my sponsors, and he gave me a nice jacket that I, for some reason, cut in half. I was a tweaker tailor. And I don't know what I remember. I had good intentions. I always had good intentions, especially on Xanax, but I will fuck shit up. And so I just I guess one of the pots, I think one of them had his friend's ashes in it possibly. I'm not 100% sure. I know one was like a gift, and I was planning on rearranging his flower pots, and I guess I just destroyed and broke all of them, pissed my pants, and then
wow, you had a lot
overshot the line.
You had a lot of pissing your pants episodes, huh?
Yeah, well, this was still the same one I was talking about in the early. Why I got my sponsor to stop talking to me. Well, he didn't stop talking to me. He had just that was such a depressing text. And I was, when you lie and your lie's worse than the truth.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You're too fucked up to know what you. I told everybody.
And then you gotta go with the lie. Yeah. Like once the lie's out there, like you can't stop it and take it back.
And I didn't even
because then it'll look like a lie.
Nobody even cared. I'd show up back at this. I'm not gonna say the name of the program. Sometimes I'd be outside just sleeping under the bridge for 5 days, and then I'd be like, oh shit, I can go inside, and I'd freaking go back, 20 pounds lighter, freaking come in for breakfast, be like, oh, I was with my kid, and
And, you know, so I come in, though, the next morning, you know, and I'm just beat and just sad. And I don't remember what happened. I just know that the cops got done talking to me. And so I'm just grateful that I am still, you know, not in jail. And I'm like, oh, man, you know, my connect's going to be mad. I don't want to say his name either, but because I was always losing sacks and shit. They took my dope.
There's a lot of anonymous
Yeah.
when it comes to addiction, for sure.
And so they took my dope or my Fetty and my fentanyl, and I was like, well, I need this. So I'm like just trying to think of what to say, and for some reason I tell everybody I was like, because nobody cared about the iPad, nobody cared where I was, but I'm just like, sorry guys, I got robbed by a hooker.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. You got it. Yeah, yeah.
Myself on the fence, and it was just like, what? And everyone's like trying to figure out like what happened, and I'm like, then all of a sudden I'm like telling them I thought I had a date, and then that she was a hooker and she stabbed me and stole my iPad. And
then that probably turned into she was actually a good-looking hooker, and oh man, you should have seen her. I mean,
it turned into I thought you were going with your kid, who I mind you I hadn't been able to see at that point. I got the plug pulled on that. Sad adulting story with that. The reason that I stopped being able to see my kid the last time, which I am so grateful for, because if I was able to still see her, I would just play the victim. I would have continued into my addiction, and you know, my parents at that point would let me come over when I had my daughter, and they were kind of just plain willfully ignorant. My mom had told me she accepted I was going to die a fentanyl addict, and she just wanted me to know I was loved. So as long as I was in good form, because like I said, most of the time was maintenance mode, I could come over with if my kid was there. And my daughter, we were dropping her off. She wanted to say bye. You know, we do butterfly kiss and all this stuff. And I had let her play on my phone, which was not locked. And I was supposed to have her she was going home for a day or two, and I was supposed to have her the whole next week. And I kept running out of my fentanyl, like, you know, because I'd have her an extra day, or I'd smoke too much at night, and you know, I didn't like to score with her, and so I'm like texting my connect like, hey bro, like make sure freaking when you re-up or whatever, just get me a fucking half ounce, dude, like, you know, because that's what he would pick up, and you know, so I'm taking care of for the week. Like, how sick is that, man? Like I need a half ounce of fentanyl just to be able to be with my kid for a few days. And so my daughter like kept my phone because she wanted to say bye one more time, because we used to have to meet at the 7-Eleven because her man didn't want me knowing where they lived. And so we're freaking on our way back, and my ex-wife calls, and you know, she's usually just fucking, you know, she's on, like, I've never known her to be able to like hold her composure when she has utter disdain. And so I'm like tripping like, oh fuck, you know, because she called me and was like, hey Ezra, how's your phone? She wanted to say bye again, you know? And so that's why she hid the phone from me, and I'm like tripping like fuck. And because she's looked through my phone before. And so I get the phone, long story short, get the phone, and it says, she just is like, hey, you know, we say bye again. I'm like hugging my daughter. She's like, you're going to see him all next week. So I think I'm cool. And turns, you know, 3 days go by. I'm like, wait, when are we getting Ezra? And she's like, you need a drug test. And so that's how I stopped being able to see her again. But I was still lying and using that to leave the program. So,
all right, guys, we're gonna save them some more stories for next time.
Yeah, sorry, I don't even know where that story came from. I think it was piss in the pants, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
ADHD,
and
you tie things together. It's like you got this fucking. You ever seen Memento?
I have not, and I don't know if our audience has.
All right, well, check that movie out, everyone. And I will
So Memento. All right, guys.
It's with an M. Memento.
Memento. There you have it. That's our first podcast in a book. It's called Adulting. I think it was.
Where are we at? Oh, I'm 2. Phew! Another dose of recovery wisdom and probably some questionable advice. Yeah, that's true. And served up by from our Niles Street host. Or wait, damn it, I highlighted host.
That's all right, Bentley. Seriously, those reviews are like gold. They tell the podcast gods that we're doing something right, and they help new listeners find our little corner of the internet.
If you were, wait, is it my turn yet?
I think we're gonna have to work on the outro, Bentley. Let's
but if you're
cut
feeling
it there.
enlightened, entertained, or just less alone, please consider leaving us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Mine is Spotify.
All right. Until then, keep striving, keep smiling, and we'll see you next time. All right, guys. We're back with the rest of the episode. We're going to give you a little snippet called Banter with Bentley.
About the conception of Banter with Bentley came from Deanna Blankenship. Shout out Deanna. She's dope. She helped me a lot when I first got into recovery because not recovery. I've been in recovery on and off since I was 16 on a court card. But I was just confused as hell, dude. I thought I was a superhero this last time around. I thought the meth psychosis was tapped into the multiverse per se, or I used to follow cigarette butts and find cool shit. Like, it was weird. I kind of was tapped in. So I thought I could read minds and all this stuff, and I also thought Lynn was trying to figure me out. That's my boss and the owner of this beautiful place I work at. And so I thought this outpatient place, CSO, was just one of his buildings, and they were like some kind of like doctors trying to like get my brain, pick my brain. And Deanna fucking was able, to like let me know that I am special and that we can tap into the the energy field, and I still believe in that, but I was not at the time, not in the way I thought you could. But either way, she used to like my tangents, and so the last 10 minutes, 15 minutes of our outpatient classes, she would just do banter with Bentley, and that could be on a variety of topics, because it doesn't matter what it is, I can talk about it. I have an opinion on it.
Nice.
Another person who discovered this was Beth. She was my boss at Hot Topic. And she used to trip out on it, and she had this kind of pretentious fucking douchey boyfriend named Josiah. Okay, Josiah, you're not a douche, but you kind of came off douchey back then. And he came and was trying to question. She was like, he could go on anything, and I was sitting there at Dagny's, and he was like, what's your opinion on cereal? And we sat there and we had a riveting conversation, because I had many opinions on cereal. Because first of all, if you're going to ask me that question, are we going healthy? Are we going crunch? Are we going sweetness? What are we going for here? And so, this isn't going to be the best or the worst banter with Bentley. This is just so you understand what it is. It's a banter about the banter.
Right?
Yeah.
That explained it beautifully. The banter about the banter.
That should be the name for a band.
Why not go with it since you already threw it out there? What is your take on cereal?
Well, I think cereal it's fucking phenomenal, but in the same way that fentanyl is phenomenal. Cereal is horrible for you. And there's also, I don't know if anybody is familiar with the conspiracy with, was it Milton Bradley or whatever, I don't know, but cereal was just a fucking way to make money.
Milton Bradley made Monopoly.
Okay, whatever.
Right?
Okay.
I think
I got that wrong.
Like a General Mills type thing.
Yeah, and so, but pretty much it's just it's bad for you in so many different ways, and it's supposed to make men fucking impotent or flaccid or something, watch everybody look up the conspiracy on cereal and you'll be like, fuck, I shouldn't eat this shit, just like you shouldn't do fentanyl. And
so what is your favorite cereal?
But my favorite cereal lately, I've been on a Frosted Flakes kick, but I will never back down from my top two, which is Fruity Pebbles, Cocoa Pebbles. And when it comes to Cocoa Pebbles, it needs to be Cocoa Pebbles, or at least the off-brand Cocoa Pebbles. Cocoa Crisp is out. Gets floppy too. It gets, It gets soft too quick.
Do you do the Cocoa Pebbles with chocolate milk?
No, just regular milk.
Milk.
I don't want
too much chocolate,
I don't like
right?
double chocolate in anything.
No, gotcha.
And so
I've always thought that was weird when I see people eat Cocoa Pebbles with chocolate milk.
I would love some right now. I could smack a whole bag back easy in a night.
Well, I definitely know you like picking the marshmallows out of Lucky Charms.
Oh yeah, at a quarter bag, I can easily take the whole bag.
Yeah, no, I know, because so at the recovery home that we work at, I'm the cook, and I know I went in to put out breakfast, which was going to be cereal one morning, after Bentley came off of the night shift the night before, and I went to put out a bag of Lucky Charms that was about half full, and I thought, I'd like some Lucky Charms, and I went to pour myself a bowl, and there's no marshmallows. Like, I knew it was a Bentley thing, because I'm like, who the fuck else would just, like,
It's like
eat the marshmallows out of the fucking Lucky Charms? Like, you can't do that. It's not your own bag. Like, you got to share, bro.
Yeah.
Like, I literally think I threw that back in the trash and was like, I'm not doing
It
this.
is, because essentially, like, I don't know if you've ever eaten Lucky Charms without marshmallows, but it is trash. That's what
Yeah,
it
no,
is.
exactly. Like,
It's now trash. So I've been
like
working
now,
on that.
so now you just have what, a fucking, like a dry wheat fucking, who knows what it's made of thing.
Disgusting cereal,
Yeah.
But if I'm going for pretend healthy cereal, I'm going for Raisin Bran. I love Raisin Bran, and especially they have this new Raisin Bran. But Raisin Bran's so not healthy for you. The sugar content, it's just like the mystery. Like I'm a big ice cream guy. I'm a big yogurt guy, and luckily they're coming out with these new yogurts that are going with the modern fad of fitness or being fit and healthy and keto and all that good jazz. But you look at a freaking, you thinking strawberry Greek yogurt, I'm going to be healthy. There is so much there's more sugar in that than there is in a bag of fucking Skittles. It's ridiculous. And same with cereal, man. But they have some pretty good protein ones. Like right now I've been on this kick of, what's that, Ghost, the energy drink brand? They have this protein cereal, dude, and it gasses me up. Like, it's not good. Like, my parents thought, like, when I have my daughter, I stay with my parents, and, they had left for the morning, and me and my daughter had left, went to the park, and then I had to be at work at 2 and back at the house. So, my mom just picked us up directly from the park, because, mind you, I mentioned it before, I do not have a vehicle. I still get rides from my mother. And so she was like, hey, what'd you throw away? And so this is hours after we had left the house, like at least 4 hours after we had left the house. And I'm like, what are you talking about? She was like, the house just had, like, just smelled like wet trash. And the protein consumption
protein left out smells horrid.
No, it wasn't. That was my farts.
Wow.
I was just like nonstop. It was ridiculous because I'm not going to get a wife listen to this podcast. But yeah, it was just because, like, the problem is with me and healthy things is at night when I get the munchies, I'm still going to go all through it. So it negates the purpose of it, and it's actually worse for you because I will eat a whole thing of protein like a whole box of protein bars or something if that's my midnight snack.
So just to wrap this up, Bentley, love the banter. I have 2 cereal questions for you. 1, what's your favorite of all time cereal?
Serial killer or cereal?
Cereal.
Got it. I got a favorite of both. Favorite of all times, hands down. Told you, Cocoa Pebbles for sure.
All right, and the second question: are you more of a eat cereal at night type of guy, or eat cereal in the morning type of guy? There is a difference.
Night, and the reason this is because I can have willpower during the day. I can go a whole, and it's not healthy. That's probably why I binge at night, because I can forget to, which is also an ADHD trait where you'll just forget to eat. And I can go the whole morning, because in the morning I'm always like starting strong, like I'm gonna be good today. I'm gonna be healthy, and so like I'm gonna try, But then by the end of the night, I'm just like fuck it. And if I go in on a bag, like I've already broken my health thing, and being an addict,
yeah, just go for it, all in.
I will sit there, and my refrigerator's at the end of my bed, and I will just fucking lean over, and I'll grab some milk, and I'll have the box right there, and I'll try it with a small bowl at first, and then all of a sudden I just, like, every time I wake up, when I first wake up is when I have zero willpower, and I wake up probably 4 or 5 times, at least throughout the night, and I will eat a bowl on every one.
All right, guys, there you have it. Bentley's favorite cereal, Cocoa Pebbles at night. That was the second question. Favorite and time of day.
Got it.
All right, guys, there you go.